What is up, guys? Welcome back to Off the Shelves, and I have a ton of things to show you. Not only a ton of physical media on the movie side, but I have gone absolutely bananas when it comes to vinyl records. So I'm not going to be able to show off every single vinyl record that I've bought over the last 2 months because we'd be here for 2 hours. So I just picked out some of the standout ones on the movie TV soundtrack side. I've also bought a ton of music. I've bought all Metallica albums, a ton of things from Alice in Chains, Van Halen. So that side of things, I might just do a quick little overpass and kind of show you what my collection looks like, but I'll spotlight some of the movie soundtracks. Starting off on the Blu-rays and 4Ks, we'll kick it off with the brand new releases and then move on to like my 4K double dips and some of the older films that I bought. First one here is Final Destination Bloodlines, one of the bigger surprises of the year so far. I really expected this movie to not be all that great, and it ended up being my second favorite of the franchise so far, and I'm pretty close to my favorite. So I really enjoyed this one. Thought the kills were really good. I enjoyed the characters quite a bit. There were certainly some flaws here that are just kind of ingrained into all these Final Destination movies. I have done a full review for this as well as pretty much all these movies I'm going to talk about, so I'll put a link up here for those that apply. But yeah, this is the 4K Steelbook. Really good addition to the franchise. Had to pick that one out. I would say to go out and buy that one. Now we have a Blumhouse film that I enjoyed quite a bit, and that is Drop. I actually saw this at its premiere in South by Southwest, and it's a movie that, it asks a lot of your suspension of disbelief, certainly too much for a lot of people. I would not take any issue whatsoever if somebody said the movie's absolute bullshit and I can't get into it. But I dug it. I had fun with it. I could, suspend enough disbelief to just buy into the premise of this woman getting all these little digital drops and trying to get her to perform an assassination. I thought it was a fun little thriller, so definitely one I wanted to pick up and watch again. It's on the lower end of go out and buy it. If you stream it, it's totally a stream-worthy movie. I think you'll have a solid time with it. Then I have a movie that I actually bought 2 different copies of, but I gave just the regular edition to my dad. This is the Steelbook version of The Monkey, a movie that I liked. Of the 3 that I've talked about so far, this is the one that I think disappointed me the most because the first half of the film I found to be very entertaining when they were kids, and then as soon as they were adults, I felt like it lost a lot of steam, but it was still fun. This is along the lines of Final Destination. You got this cursed little monkey doll. Every time it gets turned on, somebody dies in some gruesome way. An Osgood Perkins film. So I enjoyed it enough to check it out a second time, so I wanted to get the Steelbook for that. As far as a rating, I would say to stream that one for sure. Then we have Novocaine. This was one of my favorite movies of the early months of the year. It's Jack Quaid, where he's essentially a guy that has this disorder where he can't feel pain, and so he has to go on this little revenge path to save this girl that he likes, and so he's getting cut up and stabbed and shot in all these little gnarly ways, but he doesn't feel any pain. So he literally grinds his fists into glass and uses it as a weapon. It's a fun movie. I think that it does lose a little bit of steam as it goes on. Some of the concept is most fun in the first couple of gags that it has, but it's still a really fun time. And I just love Jack Quaid to death. He's like one of my favorite working actors today. So this one, I would also say is on the, I would say go out and buy that one. That one's just a really fun time if you like action comedies like this. That one actually belongs in that pile. Now, as far as TV series that are brand new, this is the one that I bought. This is Fallout. This is the 4K Steelbook. This is a show that I actually have not watched yet. I watched the first episode back when this came out and everybody was raving about it, and I really enjoyed the first episode, but then I got super busy, so I haven't been able to finish the season. I'll definitely catch up on this before season 2 drops, but this was like a little special edition 4K that came with a pack of all these little postcards here that are very, very stylized to be like the video game. So that was kind of a cool thing. Like you got the ghoul there and Ella Purnell's character and a bunch of other things. So kind of a neat little novelty. Sometimes I don't really care much for the little collector things that they add in there because it just takes up spots on the shelves and I don't feel like I'm ever really going to look at this. But this one was cool enough where I actually kind of, I enjoy the fact that they included that. So I can't give you a rating on Fallout. I've heard nothing but great things about it, but that was the TV series that I bought this month. Now, as far as older films or films that I already own that I now have bought this 4K edition or some kind of special edition of, first one here is a film that honestly I toyed with the notion of buying because I don't really know if I'll ever watch it again, but I don't know. Something intrigued me enough to add it to the collection, and maybe if I like the second one, I'll be inclined to watch this one a second time, and that's In a Violent Nature. This is the 4K Steelbook. It's a really good-looking Steelbook, too, so I'm a whore for that. That's part of the reason I got it. This is a film that I saw at Overlook Film Festival last year. I thought it was decent, thought it was an interesting concept, but I also thought that the movie was pretty boring overall. And, the gore certainly makes up for it. It's got one of the best kills of all time. The big thing that turned me off was the filmmakers during the Q&A kind of came across very pretentious and cocky and, I don't know, kind of like douchebags. Maybe they were just having a bad night. Maybe their sense of humor was just off that night. I'm totally willing to chalk that up to that if they end up making a good second film. But yeah, it kind of turned me on it a little bit, so I didn't really praise it as much as other people. But it was intriguing enough, and since they're getting a second film, maybe it'll turn into a franchise I overall do like, and maybe I want to revisit that first one. As a film, I would say to stream that one, though. Now we have The Crazies. This is a 4K steelbook with a nice little slip cover here. If you guys have not seen the announcement, this 31 on 31 for October is going to be about zombies, infected, apocalypse, stuff like that. So I wanted to pick this one up. I'm sure I'll get a bunch more before October. I really enjoy this film. This would be a go out and buy it for me. I haven't seen it in quite a while, but I always remember it being one of the more solid remakes. Never seen the original, so that'll be an interesting first time watch. Another 4K special edition that I got, it's a steelbook, is Basic Instinct here. It's a movie that I haven't watched in years, but it's one of the best, if not the best, like erotic thriller out there. I mean, it's very adult. It's infamous for Sharon Stone parting her legs and showing everything. But it's a really wild movie. It's got some good thrills. It's pretty bloody and gory, especially if you watch the unrated edition. I love Michael Keaton, and of course, this is the role that made Sharon Stone. So it's kind of a classic in its own regard. Have not seen it in years, but I remember it being like go out and buy it level. We'll see if, whenever I revisit it, that stays true. This is one of the most underrated movies ever, and it's The Way of the Gun. This is an early Christopher McQuarrie movie. He's the guy that does a lot of Tom Cruise's films, like the last 4 of the Mission Impossible movies, 4 or 5 of them. And this is just a really solid thriller that has great performances. You don't really ever hear anybody talk about it, but it's absolutely one of my favorites. So you got Ryan Phillippe and Benicio del Toro, who are a couple of criminals. They kidnap Juliette Lewis because she's pregnant with a rich guy's baby, and they're trying to like score big for like a kidnapping ransom. And the guy ends up sending out like Hitman, and James Caan is kind of like his fixer after them. It is a really cool movie. It's got one of the most hilarious openings to a film ever, as far as like a cold opening. Absolutely love this one. I would say go out and buy this one all day. If you have never seen this, please check it out. And we have a little 4K special edition of Kick-Ass. Always been one of my favorite comic book films. It's a shame that the second one didn't do nearly as good, because I think there was a potential to have a great trilogy here. But this first one is an absolute classic to me, so I definitely wanted to upgrade to this one. It's got a really cool slipcover where they're in their costumes, but if you take the slipcover off, they're unmasked. So I like whenever you do stuff like that. Again, I'm kind of a whore for the artwork, so definitely wanted to pick that one up. That one's a go out and buy it all day long. One I've never seen before, but I picked up specifically because filmmaker Ryan Coogler was geeking out about it like crazy. That is Michael Mann's Thief. I like Michael Mann's movies, the ones that I have seen. This one seems to be a classic for a lot of people, so I look forward to checking it out at some point. It's a 4K from Criterion Collection. Then we got a classic here, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. This is a 4K steelbook. I really like the artwork. I love this movie. Never been as crazy about the second one, but this was a Shout Factory release. That's a go out and buy it. Absolute comedy classic for me. Then we have a couple releases here from Scream Factory, where it is Sleepaway Camp 2 and Sleepaway Camp 3, and they came with these little variant covers where they have the old school VHS cover, or you can do this custom artwork, and I like to have both, so I went with that route. I've always enjoyed the second film. It's a so bad that it's good type movie, just like the first Sleepaway Camp, but it's entertaining. The third one, not so much. Not that it doesn't have any redeeming quality, but it's definitely a dip. They filmed 2 and 3 back to back, and it seemed all their best ideas went into 2. So I would say that Sleepaway Camp 2 is a stream it movie, and Sleepaway Camp 3 is probably a skip it, but it was kind of a package deal, and whatever. Completionist in me had to have it. Not the 4th film though. I don't need that one. This one is actually a really underrated movie too, and that is The Rage, Carrie 2. This might be a hot take. I like this more than the Brian De Palma Carrie film. I've never been hot on that movie like everybody else. I've never liked any of the more modern iterations of Carrie either, like the one with Chloe Grace Moretz. I didn't think was that great. I know they're getting ready to do another one, I believe. Isn't Mike Flanagan or somebody doing it? Could be wrong, but they're getting ready to do another one. Maybe that one will be awesome. I've always liked this. It's a lot more early 2000s, late 90s with its style and its soundtrack, and it's a lot gorier. It's a lot meaner. So this one's actually pretty fun, where you basically have a girl who's, kind of the same story as Carrie. She's from the wrong side of the track. She's kind of like the mysterious gothic chick. And her best friend, played by Mina Savari, ends up jumping off of a building after her boyfriend breaks up with her. And essentially it's about, this bunch of douchebags in high school doing what douchebags do in high school movies, and things go very wrong for them. So I actually really enjoy this one. I look forward to revisiting that sometime soon. But that's a cool little 4K set, and of course you get the original artwork here. So that was cool to see that get a release. This is one that, honestly, I don't know why I bought this. This is the Arrow release of The Stuff. It is a 4K release of the movie. And this is a film that actually, when I was a kid, I don't remember what VHS it was, but there was a movie that I loved that had the trailer for The Stuff on it. And so I saw the trailer for the movie so many times, and the trailer made it look awesome, made it look creepy and wild. And so I always had the curiosity to check it out, but never really had the chance to watch it. Then I bought like the Scream Factory release maybe like 10 years ago and watched it, and I thought the film was just way too corny for me. So I think I bought this because I'd rather have the 4K than the regular Blu-ray if I'm going to own the film, and I kind of want to maybe give it an extra shot. I've kind of gotten away since I've been more full-time and reviewing way more new releases. I've kind of gotten away from spending more time on the older films, and I'd like to ramp that up at some point whenever the new releases die down a little bit. And so movies like this that I have only seen once or twice, I'd like to do some reviews on them, kind of bring some of that old school Cody Leach YouTube stuff back. So maybe that's the reason why I got it. Just planning for the future. Another one that I got here, which I already own, but this was the 4K version, which I much prefer, is Longlegs. So this is the other Osgood Perkins film that came out recently, and this one had a huge box office return. I did really like this film. I wasn't as crazy about Nick Cage overall as everybody else. I think there's spots where it's brilliant. I think there's spots where he goes too far, and it kind of took me out of the movie. But overall, I did really enjoy it, so I wanted to check this one out, and I'd rather own the better-looking version. So that's a film that, it's somewhere between go out and buy it and stream it for me. I know when I first reviewed it, I reviewed it pretty highly, but it's not necessarily a rewatch type film, so I don't know, somewhere in that spectrum is where I would say that one falls. Moving on from that, Cecil from the horror show sent me this Blu-ray for Dylan's New Nightmare. There's a funny story for why he sent it that I won't get into, but this is the fan film continuation of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So if you enjoy that film, if you want to see a pretty well done Freddy horror or a fan film that has Dave McRae, if you're a Dave McRae fan, as Freddy Krueger himself, and Miko Hughes returning. He was the kid from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Go to the horror show, the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to find this, or just search Dylan's New Nightmare. But yeah, appreciate that, Cecil. Got that one there. This one, I, again, have bought this movie numerous times, but this was the 50th anniversary edition, and I'm not going to not buy it, and that is Jaws. One of the best movies of all time. This is one that there's very few movies out there that I like where it seems like every time I watch it, I just love it even more. And this film has always been one that I've enjoyed and praised, but the last like 2 or 3 times that I've watched it, I think it's literally climbed in like maybe my top 25 films of all time. It was a blast to see in theaters in 3D. I hope they release it that way again some point. I hate 3D, but the way that they mastered this in 3D was actually kind of a cool experience. It's coming to theaters again, I think Labor Day weekend, and I'm probably going to be there again. So yeah, this is the 4K edition with the little artwork for the steelbook. That's really well done. So had to have that one. Gotta love Jaws. One of the best of all time. This is a really cool release here. This is one of my favorites of the month. So we got the Arrow video version of Dark City. This is another film like Way of the Gun that's severely underrated. If you like really trippy sci-fi type stuff, like borderline Inception with like mutants and things, like this is a really, really cool film where you have this society of, I think they're like aliens or something that have psychic powers that kind of take over society. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but I've always really enjoyed it. I'm so due for a rewatch. So when they had this set come out, I was like, oh yeah, I got to own that thing. And it's one of those big meaty sets too. So they really don't, they don't spare any expense on giving you some of the goodies. So this one is to go out and buy it from my memory, but look forward to checking that one out again soon. Then, of course, it seems like they're just releasing these one by one in 4K. We've got American Pie 2. This is a foreign release, obviously, but a lot of the best ones nowadays are. I love the first two American Pie films. Honestly, I love the first four of them. The first two are definitely the better of the four, but that whole little quadrilogy there is just very close to my heart. So I bought the first one last year and this one this year. And whenever it comes to American Wedding, which is my least favorite of the four, I'll get that one, and then Reunion after that. So that's a go out and buy it all day. And that is just my era of comedy that I wish we could get back to at some point. Now we got the 4K release of When Evil Lurks. This was one of my favorite films last year, and for a lot of these horror releases, they drop on Blu-ray, and then 6 months later they do the 4K. So this is why we're here. This is a go out and buy it. One of the gnarlier, more fucked up horror films you're going to see in a long time. It's a really interesting twist on like demonic possession and cursed. So if you like those types of that subgenre of horror, definitely check that one out. Along those same lines is Cuckoo, a film that I already bought in Blu-ray, and now the 4K is released. This is a foreign one, but I would rather have the 4K, a really weird, trippy horror film that I absolutely loved. It was one of my favorites last year. It's kind of hard to describe what it's about, but if you like monster films, that's certainly a unique take on the monster film genre. Now we're on to a couple of Vinegar Syndrome releases that, one of which I'm kind of shocked even exists. So actually, we'll do the less exciting one first. Even though I love this film, we have The Golden Child. Another hot take. I think this is my favorite Eddie Murphy comedy. I've always loved this movie ever since I was a kid. I quote it constantly. Like, don't get me wrong. Beverly Hills Cop, Nutty Professor, 48 Hours, Coming to America. They're all classics to me. This is the one that's always been nearest and dearest to my heart, probably because it doesn't get mentioned very often. But I love this. This is a 4K set from Vinegar Syndrome. It's got a really nice little booklet on the inside of it, and a really nice looking set. So this is one that I'm happy to have here. And that is a go out and buy it all day. My sweet dear brother Numsi. Now for the one that was kind of wild that came out of nowhere that I didn't even know was a thing. And as soon as I found out about it, I could not hit pre-order fast enough. And that is Dirty Work. Now, I kind of hate this cover. It's an awful cover. I have to be honest, like this. Here on the inside, I would much rather have had that. At least that's a scene from the film that kind of makes sense to be the forefront of it. But this is a Norm Macdonald-led comedy that was directed by Bob Saget in the 90s. And it's genuinely one of my favorite comedies of all time, where you have these two guys who start a revenge for hire business. It's such a fun movie. And this is a special set because not only is it the 4K version of the film, but there was a rated R cut of the film that was shot and had never been released. They cut it down to PG-13, and I didn't even know that as a huge fan of the film. And so they found the original footage and spliced all of the rated R scenes and bits and extensions of the scenes back into the film so you can actually watch the rated R cut of the film for the first time ever. Now, I will say, I still prefer the PG-13 cut. I don't know if it's because that's the one I've always watched for, well over 20-something years now. Part of it, I think, is that some of the rated R bits I don't think really add much. Like, there's one that's pretty funny where they get revenge on these bullies for the second time to kind of pay that off that I actually thought was a really good bit to bring back in. But the rest of them are basically the same exact bits or jokes that I'm used to, just with a little bit more crass of a word thrown in there. So I don't think that the rated R version of this is like this uncovered masterpiece. But as a friend of the film, I'm so glad it exists, and I absolutely had to get one. So if you're a Dirty Work fan, get this before it goes away completely. But the movie in and of itself is a go out and buy it all day long. I absolutely love it. Now we have another Vinegar Syndrome one. This is Roadhouse 4K. Now they have a really badass set that's more along the sexiness of something like this that unfortunately is sold out and it's going for way too much money on eBay. But I still have always really enjoyed this movie and kind of got a newfound love for it with the new one when it came out, and I got to revisit it again. So I wanted to at least have this version of it. That's just like the regular clamshell. Really cool artwork there on the front. Just an absolute 80s cheese classic there that you kind of have to have some nostalgia for, but nonetheless, I enjoy the movie quite a bit. Wanted to have that one. Roadhouse, I mean, I would call it a go out and buy it just for nostalgia's sake. If I'm going to be objective, it's probably more close to a stream it, but fuck it. You love it or you hate it. And then I got this 4K set here of Lethal Weapon, absolute action comedy classic, more of an action movie actually, but nonetheless, buddy cop classic, we'll call it that. Really cool set where it's got this little slip cover and everything on it. I'm sure they'll start releasing the other ones too. But again, like I said, some of the foreign releases now are even sexier than the US releases. So when I saw this, had to have that one. Lethal Weapon, go out and buy it all day long. And now on to our last 3 movie releases. We got, this one is from Second Sight Films, and it is The Nice Guys. One of the movies that so unfairly failed at the box office. A great buddy cop type film where you have a private investigator and kind of an enforcer working together to solve a murder. It's absolutely hilarious, and this is a really nice set. I mean, there's a whole booklet in here. Of course, the movie in 4K. It's kind of got its own little booklet quality to it. I mean, all kinds of cool stuff. So if you're a fan of the film, this is definitely the best release it's ever going to have. Such a shame we didn't get a sequel to it, but, you know, I don't know. Sometimes weird movies fail where you're like, what the fuck? How is Jurassic World Rebirth going to make $1 billion and this movie bombed? Fucking make it make sense. Ugh. Moving on from that to one of my favorite films of the last couple of years, we have Talk to Me. I think this actually was my favorite horror film the year it came out, and this is a 4K set. So I have the Blu-ray. This is one that's also from Second Sight Films, and same as The Nice Guys. It's got, you know, a whole booklet and everything. I really enjoyed this film. Nice Guys was go out and buy it. This one's a go out and buy it, so I had to have that one. And now we have made our way to the absolute best release of the entire month. And if you knew this came out, you knew it was going to be my pick of the month. And that is this Lionsgate release of Frailty. Frailty is one of my favorite films of all time. I think it's one of the most underrated, underseen films of all time. It's an absolute hidden gem if there ever was one. I'm sure if you guys have followed me for any number of years or even months, you've probably heard me talk about this at least a dozen times. But this is the sexiest release that's ever going to happen for this. I mean, it's got its own artwork here. It's got, you know, a whole 4K release, of course, and the Blu-ray. They've got a little booklet in here, which has like basically the script of the movie, it looks like, and all kinds of artwork that they drew on it. And you can literally read the script of the film with all of the notes that I assume is from like Bill Paxton and such. So such a cool thing to own if you're a fan of this film, which I absolutely am. And if you've never seen it before, this is how I'll pitch the movie to you, is that you have these 2 boys. One of them's a preteen, one of them's a little bit younger. Their dad is a widower and, you know, just a good-hearted country guy. And one night he wakes them up in the middle of the night and says, "Boys, wake up. I had a vision from God that demons are among us, and we have been bestowed the path where we are going to get a list of names, and we're going to go out and murder these people who are actually demons in disguise." That's how the movie starts. That's the initial kickoff to everything. And it's all about how the older son is navigating all of this. Bill Paxton plays the father. He's also the director of the film. Matthew McConaughey is the older version of the kid who's telling the movie in flashback form. It is absolutely phenomenal. So please, if you check out any movie on this list for this entire video, that is the one I want you to check out. It's one of my all-time favorites. Now we're going to move on to the Off the Record segment where I talk about the vinyls that I picked up. As I've said, I'm not going to show every single thing because that's enough for a whole hour video in and of itself, but just want to showcase some really cool stuff. So for Father's Day, my wife and kids got me this, the Volume 2 of the Breaking Bad soundtrack. I'll definitely have to get Volume 1, Volume 3, Volume 7, however many there are. I will own them all. You guys know I'm a Breaking Bad whore, so that was a very cool present. And I'm glad that I started collecting vinyl and have something else that they can give me presents for. Because for years, my wife has always said I'm a pain in the ass to buy for because I love movies, but I buy everything that I want and I basically have every single movie. And so now with vinyl, whole new world of opportunities. And it's very easy to finger through and say, okay, he doesn't have that one versus the 2,000 plus over there where it's like, okay, fuck it. He owns everything. This one's actually not a new purchase, but it's one that I've had in the packaging for years and just never actually opened. And that is the Waxwork soundtrack for the Child's Play remake. Really solid score. I know people have their issues with the film, but Bear McCreary did a great job on the score. So I've had this, very cool. And the way that the vinyl itself is pressed actually has a really cool artwork to it too. So like that's one of them where it's like this blue on the back of one of them where there's no tracks on one of them. It actually has like Chucky's face. It's kind of neat that now with modern vinyl pressing, we're getting more than just a plain black vinyl. Now they have all kinds of different patterns and colors and cool little Easter eggs in some of them. So we got that one. One that I had to pick up is the Christine score and soundtrack. Absolutely love that movie, and that is my favorite John Carpenter score. I don't know if that is actually, controversial or not, but it is. Then I have The Crow. I'm going to hold it back here, actually, and make sure that I'm not getting a bunch of glare. The Crow soundtrack. The audio is going to go out because I'm blocking myself. There's no easy way to do this. The Crow soundtrack. Really good soundtrack. Had to get that one. One that actually I paid a good amount of money for because it was out of print. They only did like a limited release for, and that is the Faculty soundtrack. This is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I mean, it's got Creed doing Alice Cooper. It's got Lane Staley and a group of people's version of Another Brick in the Wall. Tom Morello on there. You've got The Offspring, Garbage. I mean, all kinds of classics from the late 90s. So absolutely had to have that one. Love it. Another one that I paid a good amount of money for because it was a sexy ass set and it was out of print is the From Dusk Till Dawn soundtrack. This movie and the soundtrack I have a lot of nostalgic love for. We actually used to have the CD version of this in 1996 when the movie came out. I've told the story many times. My dad took me to see this film, not realizing how adult it was going to be. He just thought, vampire film. He loves Lost Boys. He'll like this. And I spent the last half of the film, or at least the middle part of the film, with my eyes being covered and him covering my ears and everything. And on the soundtrack and on this vinyl version, there's segments from the movie where you get like Cheech Marin's speech and a bunch of stuff like Quentin Tarantino, him imagining Juliette Lewis asking him to do something. And so as a kid, I would always want us to play the soundtrack like when we're outside grilling or whatever, and my dad never would. I never understood why. As I got older, I understood why. But yeah, I have a lot of good memories with that soundtrack. Wanted to get that one, absolutely. Then we got Judgment Night, one of my favorite underrated films and a really underrated soundtrack, so I had to get that one. One that, of course, you knew I had to buy was The Lost Boys. I haven't actually been able to spin this one just yet, but that's one of my favorite horror films of all time, so I had to get that one. This is actually the vinyl that I first purchased when I was in LA and my buddy Joey was just the devil tapping on my shoulder trying to give me that vinyl bug. This is the one that I saw where I was like, fuck, I have to own that. And I had to order it online because it was out of print. And the shop that we saw it at, it was way overpriced from what Joey told me. And he was right. So it took a long time to come in. But this is the waxwork version of the Phantasm soundtrack. It is such a cool set. It's got really badass artwork. And as you guys know, I'm a Phantasm whore. Absolutely love that movie. So I actually bought this for me, and I bought a copy of this for my dad for kind of a late Father's Day present because it took so long to get here. So it was like between Father's Day and his birthday. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back, was I saw that, and I saw the Warriors one that I showed you guys last time, and I was like, fuck, fine, I'm in vinyl now, bastards. Speaking of Roadhouse, this was actually a really cool release that I think this is also waxwork. I could be wrong. Mondo. This is a Mondo release, and this is Jeff Healey, so he's the guy that plays the guitarist in the house band, and he's actually a musician. He's since passed away, but this is the actual, like, unreleased soundtrack to the movie. It's basically his all original music, just like with Fastway and Trick or Treat. So this is a really cool little novelty thing that I definitely wanted to pick up as a fan of the movie. And I'm not super familiar with Jeff Healey, but I like his music in the film. So maybe that'll make me a Jeff Healey fan and I'll uncover even more stuff. Speaking of Trick or Treat, knew I had to get it. There was a remastered version of this album that came out like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that I had the CD for. I was trying to find that on vinyl, and it doesn't seem to be listed anywhere. So this was the most recent version I could find where they have like an orange and black pressed vinyl, but this is my favorite movie soundtrack of all time from Fastway. Absolutely love the movie, but the soundtrack is amazing. You got all the pictures from the movie here as well. You got Gene Simmons and Mark Price and R.I.P. Ozzy, but had to have that one. I actually have this vinyl somewhere else in a box somewhere in a frame, but it's one of the ones that I got used, so it has like that little clip punched out of the corner. That's a brand new one. So the last one I'm going to show you, which is going to seem like an oddball for me, but this is one of my favorite films of all time, and actually I think the only musical that I've ever loved, and that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So absolutely had to have this one just to play, to have fun with the family or whatever. Saw this one at a record shop in Charleston, South Carolina, and had to pick that one up. So the first one that I picked up specifically because I have kind of a blind spot with this man, and that is Dio. This is the entire studio album box set of everything he released from 1983 to 1993, so there's literally like 7 albums here. They're all right there. All of his studio albums from Holy Diver all the way to Strange Highways. I know a number of Dio songs, and I acknowledge that he's one of the best metal singers of all time, but I've never really sat and actually listened to whole albums from him. So I bought this specifically to kind of resolve that blind spot for me. I bought this one, and since it was basically right there underneath it, I also got the other studio album box set, which is everything else that he released from 1996 to 2004, which was his last studio album release. So this is Angry Machines all the way to Magica. So I own every single Dio album now. I've listened through his first 2, Holy Diver and Last in Line, some really good stuff on there. But I look forward to checking out the rest of it. I don't really know why. There's certain bands, artists that I know certain songs and like I acknowledge that they're among the best, but I just never really taken the time to actually go through their library. So he was one that I saw the box sets and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go down a Dio rabbit hole. But absolutely the pick of the month as far as my vinyl record purchases, it's kind of a bittersweet thing. And it's See You on the Other Side, the Ozzy Osbourne box set. This was about 500 something bucks. And it was one that I was like, I don't know if I really want to spend that amount of money on a bunch of vinyls. But this actually, I bought it right after he did his Back to the Beginning, his final show. I have always been a big fan of Ozzy's music. I went down a huge Ozzy rabbit hole whenever I got really big into Zakk Wylde and Black Label Society and just became an absolute fanatic. But it had been maybe 10 years since I'd really heavily listened to Ozzy Osbourne's stuff. And so when I saw that final concert, I kind of got a little choked up and I was like, I need to get back into Ozzy again. So I went to go buy some of his vinyls and some of them were really expensive. And then I came across this box set. And even though it was a lot of money, it was significantly more expensive to buy them piecemeal. So I just said, fuck it. I love Ozzy. I'm going to love listening to all these albums. So let me buy this box set. And I started listening to every single one of his studio albums from Blizzard of Oz onward. This also has B-side albums. It has all of his live albums. It's everything that he's released from Blizzard of Oz all the way up to Patient Number 9, with the exception of Speak of the Devil, which is like a live album he did where him and a number of musicians kind of did a live version of some Black Sabbath stuff. That's not in here, but pretty much everything else he's released is here. And some of those albums aren't even available to buy by themselves. So nonetheless, I bought this when I was playing Death Stranding 2. I put on his albums, and for days, I was listening to just Ozzy Osbourne. And I was about halfway through No Rest for the Wicked when I was on the way home from a doctor's appointment with my daughter when the news broke that he had passed away. So it was kind of, like I said, very, very bittersweet, where I bought this to get back into his music, kind of rediscovered my love for the man just less than a week before he's gone forever. Ozzy Osbourne's passing away has been a celebrity death that shockingly for me has affected me quite a bit, where I'm getting choked up even right now. Not since Robin Williams have I had somebody pass that has made me like this sad and made me look back and realize how much he impacted my life in many different ways. So this is an incredible box set. It's very well put together. It doesn't have all the albums in it right now because I actually took them all out. And right now there's just a bunch of posters in it. So this is the artwork on the back. It shows you all the albums, but there's a bunch of posters for every single album in here that, like, you unfold them and they're pretty huge. But I took every single one of the individual albums out and I put, the coverings and everything on them, and I stuck them in my shelf because when I want to listen to an individual one, I don't want to have to dig through the whole box. But this was an incredible box set. I don't know if the price has gone up since he's passed away. I would not be surprised if it's now more of a collector's item than it was even just a couple of weeks ago, but this is the coolest thing that I own as far as vinyls right now. It's a very special set for more than a few reasons, especially now that the man's passed. But if you're an Ozzy Osbourne fan, I heavily encourage you to snag that and check it out. So, like I said, I have every single one of his albums right over here. It's from Blizzard of Oz all the way through to Patient Number 9. I've since he's passed away, I've finished listening to all of them. Right before I pressed record on this, I was listening to Live and Loud. So yeah, that's the number one thing that I bought as far as vinyl records is that box set, and I'm very glad that I bought it now, or bought it when I did, rather than trying to buy it now, because I'm sure it's in higher demand and much higher priced. But you know, me and CP and Rudy and Gray all did a stream on Charles's channel a week ago, kind of remembering Ozzy. So I'm going to put a link to that up here if you're an Ozzy Osbourne fan. But let me know what you guys think. Do you enjoy me talking about the vinyl records in this? Do you feel like that should be its own video? And I don't know. It's just something I like to throw in here now that I'm doing it. But I've slowed down a bit since I've gone crazy buying so much. So I think going forward, I'll be able to show everything that I buy, music included. But I had bought so much, I just kind of wanted to showcase a few of the spotlight stuff. So let me know what you guys bought, which things, maybe a physical release that I've missed, maybe a vinyl set that you want me to keep my eyes out for down below. And we'll see you probably in a month or two. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2025 new release reviews. I'm also going to put a playlist up here of all of the other Off the Shelves episodes. And I've had a number of people ask if I'm ever going to do like a full Blu-ray collection video. I'll probably do that at some point within the next year. So look forward to that. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.